It's okay to freak out. Don't let the numbers freak you out. You got this. Hello, my name's Jen and I'm a resident physician in Canada. I just wanted to share some of my interview tips for those going into the CARMS interview season in Canada. Now, I'm not a guru or an expert at interviews whatsoever, but I wanted to share some things that I found really helpful for me and maybe just provide kind of a comforting voice for you guys while you're going through such a stressful time. So one of the things that I found really helpful for me during the interview season was creating this Excel sheet of just as many questions that I could possibly come up with. So there's a ton of resources out there. There's probably questions kind of circulating around. And then I categorize them into kind of these different subtopics or groups of questions that are very similar in the sense that they're basically asking the same thing just in different ways. So for example, there's the tell me about yourself type of questions. And although they may sound different, for example, like describe your typical day or what makes you happy, what makes you unique, how would you describe yourself? Although those sound like different questions that they're asking, the answers that you give are basically just kind of a tell me about yourself. The way that I looked at these questions was if I were to walk away from the interview with only answering this one question, what are the things that I want my interviewers to know about me? And so that helped me kind of focus it instead of just kind of rambling on specifically the answer to their question quite literally. I would just try to express myself and demonstrate who I am. Major disclaimer, these are not questions that specifically came from CARMS interviews. They are not questions that I personally got during the interviews. They are general questions that I either came up with that were on a list kind of somewhere on Google, and most of them are very generic. I also think knowing the questions ahead of time may not produce the most genuine answers either, like if you knew the exact question that they're going to ask. And so I would recommend against kind of preparing specifically for a certain question because you don't know what you're going to get on the interview. I organized everything into these subcategories of tell me about yourself. There's the why medicine type of questions. There's the describe yourself or what are some traits about you, your strengths and weaknesses kind of all fall under the same umbrella in my opinion. And then there's the research academia type of questions. There's the accomplishment questions where you get to kind of chat about what kind of activities were important to you, how you've grown from them, etc. And there's the relationship type of questions, your family, friends, again, getting to know you more, as well as like conflict challenges questions. There's so many different ways of asking these, but basically it boils down to how do you manage these conflicts? What challenges have you faced? How do you manage stress and pressure? And then there's some questions that I just kind of thought of in healthcare world issues, and then kind of patient experiences that I've had as a medical student. And then I kind of made a section of these like unique type of questions, not so that I can specifically have an answer for what's my favorite animal, but just kind of get me in the creative mindset away from all the academia, away from all the research stuff, just to get my mind and creative juices kind of flowing, I guess. And then there's the specialty specific type of questions, and then the school specific type questions that I kind of prepared for. And the prep for these will look different for everybody. I can't tell you exactly why I got in. I have no idea kind of what questions I did well on and what questions I didn't do well on. All I can share with you is kind of what I did in my preparation. So after I gathered this list of questions, I went and answered almost every single one. You're busy med students, you're prepping for your interviews, you're preparing applications, you're doing your electives, you're doing your extracurriculars all at the same time. And so we're busy. I didn't go through every single question, disclaimer, but I did go through as many as I could and just jot down in the next column some key points that I would use to answer the question and kind of go back, reflect on them. Like, does this truly represent what I want to say? Is this what I want the interviewers to know about me? And then I would also look for recurring patterns and recurring themes, which then would kind of help me stay kind of more consistent and robust in who I was, I guess. Another thing that I think was really helpful is practicing with your friends or classmates or practicing just with other people. I used to hate doing stuff like that, like practicing presentations in front of family, friends. I would just cringe, I would giggle, I would laugh at the whole thing. But for these residency interviews, I really forced myself to do it. because having their feedback and going through the motions with somebody in real time, I think was very, very helpful for me. I had a great group of medical school friends. One of the friends was extremely organized, and he would literally send out Google Calendar invites that you RSVP to for these practice sessions, and we did that pretty consistently. I would say at least once a week, maybe 1 to 2 times a week, kind of leading up to the interviews. And we basically just, again, went through our own list of questions and then timed each other, gave feedback. I know for some people, they've been doing kind of group interview sessions since before getting into med school. But I know for me, I was very shy and I had major imposter syndrome. And so I avoided kind of those practice sessions because I was worried that they would discover, that maybe I wasn't all that great. But I bit the bullet and did it for my residency interview practice, and I'm glad that I did because I think it was very helpful. So one of the things that I find pretty common in the medical world is that it's a small world and it's very easy to get trapped in it. For me in undergrad, it was all about getting into med school, and med school is all about getting into residency. And I never really had a chance to look at things from the outside perspective, like outside of medicine. And so I would be, talking to friends in tech and saying like, oh, this interview is like so critical. And, I was speaking as if I was in a very like special, unique position being somebody interviewing for a job. My friend in tech kind of looked at me and said, like we have to, answer the same type of questions. Like if you don't get the job, it's usually not personal. It's just kind of, if you mesh with the team, if you mesh with the program, the company's ideas. And so it was kind of a reality check of like, oh, although there are special implications for residency, overall, it's still just like a job interview. You're applying for a position in a program with people that you have to work with, and they want to select someone that they can work well with, somebody that will bring their team up and contribute to the program. And I think that goes for kind of any job that you have. Like you want to hire somebody that will add to your team and bring your team up. For me, one of the things that I had to come to terms with for my residency interviews was accepting that, residency isn't everything. Often, not getting into medical school or not getting into residency seemed like the worst thing that could happen to me. And it took a lot of chats, with people not in medicine to help me realize that at the end of the day, like it's a job and it's a career. There are 1,000,001 different pathways that people can take, and there's not just one right answer. Taking a step back and looking at how many people took different paths to get to the same place means that there's 1,000,000 other paths to go from wherever you end up. Again, talking to people not in the medical community definitely helps with that catastrophizing that we all do when we're approaching these interview seasons, because it seems like the most devastating thing that can happen if you don't match. And it is a stressful thing, don't get me wrong. It is, nobody wants to go unmatched. They don't plan to go unmatched. But just know that there are so many different pathways. There are so many different other options out there. It just might not be the one that you wanted or that you expected to get. So in the end, like you can only really do your best, and one person's strengths may not be the strengths of another person. And so for me to tell you, do exactly what I did is not the point of this. The point is, don't worry about what other people did or what other people told you. The best you can do is just understand the experiences that you've had, understand yourself and your tendencies, and try to figure out the best way to, share with the residency committee who you are. Also, remember to be kind to yourself, give yourself breaks, and it's okay if you're practicing for an interview one night and you're just stumbling and you can't get the words out, or you sound silly, or you say something stupid. That's what practicing is for, and I encourage you to find colleagues that you feel safe with, people that you trust that will provide constructive criticism for you and not just say, good job, that was good, but not actually listen to what you're saying and get a sense of what you want to accomplish and what message you want to get across. It's okay to freak out. It's okay to not know what you're saying, or it's okay that you're super stressed out. call a friend, call a loved one, you know, take your breaks. And truly take care of yourself. Don't let the numbers freak you out. Don't let the fact that, you know, they're only taking one spot or one person stop you from applying for the things that you want. In case you don't hear from anybody else, you got this. You want to take a deep breath. The best that you can do is the best that you can do, and focus on the things that you have control over, and don't worry about the things that you can't control.